It took a month or so to agree compensation with Swansea, but Russell Martin was finally unveiled as the new Saints manager on the 21st of June. His coaching staff soon followed. That seems like a good place to start as we return. Going to start with you, Alfie, because I know you spent a bit of time with the new manager. Have you been impressed with what he's had to say so far and his demeanour?
Yeah, I think it's always relatively easy for a boss to come in and speak well and impress. I mean, everybody was absolutely buzzing after Nathan Jones's first press conference about how he's going to be honest and straight to the point, and he was, to be fair, but it probably wasn't what we wanted. But yeah, Russell he's clearly somebody who's very attentive. He's tight knit. I think even his assistant Matt Gill sits in on all his press conferences and stuff like that. So I'm not sure what's going on there. There's something to follow up on. And I actually bumped into Russell at Ocean Village about a couple of weeks ago before we went to Turkey, and the first thing that he then said when I spoke to him in Turkey was, "How was your dinner on Wednesday?" So he's clearly somebody who is just keeping an eye on. He's trying to be, trying to be popular, trying to be liked. And in terms of the football, I mean, I don't know what you thought about Reading, but I've not seen someone play like that in the 2 years I've covered them. I know it's only League One opposition against Ruben Sellers, but I thought the football was genuinely brilliant, exciting, massively improved on Göztepe. And I think Steve made the point that the pitch in Turkey was probably stopping that from happening, as well as another week of training. But yeah, in terms of Russell Martin, I think only time will tell. Results will be the most important thing. But I like with the direction they're going, and as much as we use the word aligned and we hear it all the time now, it does actually seem like him and Jason Wilcox do get on really well, and they actually are aligned, so to say.
Yeah, Jason Wilcox used that quite a few times in his little interview that he did on the club website, and actually, I think at the moment we're kind of all for that. Glen, it does represent quite a shift away from that high press approach that we had under Ralph and to a lesser extent under Sellers. But are you kind of happy with the new direction and what you've seen so far?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we needed to move away. I think we said that at the tail end of last season. We needed to move away from that style of football because it wasn't working anymore. Be that the players had grown tired of it, or the players we had weren't suitable for it. We definitely needed to move away from it, and I'm glad that we have. I mean, the two games we had against in Benfica was a glorified training exercise, wasn't it? And
Yeah.
there were excuses for Göztepe not being the best, but against Reading you could really see what they were trying to do. I mean, it's interesting. We've actually won a game. We don't,
You scored some goals as well.
yeah, and it's almost like we planned to do a TSP after playing against the Ruben Sellers team, because we were always going to win. Let's face it. I mean, the guy's only won one win in his last 15, so chances are he was going to be rubbish. But yeah, I mean, the football against Reading, and we're probably going to get onto that game separately. But I just love the fact that there was movement ahead of the ball. There were options. There were people to pass to. There was lots of triangles. There was, people make third man runs, all that sort of stuff. It was just, there was always someone to pass to. And if you won't find a better example than Adam Armstrong's goal. It's just that sort of football, the sort of incisive pass into someone's feet, laying it off to another runner, bang, great goal. And the Joe Aribo goal, again, it's just really intelligent play. Everyone knowing where everyone is. I mean, Adam stepped over that ball, probably knowing that someone was behind him, and it was just really impressive. I mean, but with that comes slight concerns. I mean, we kept hearing about rest defense all the time, didn't we, last year? What to do once we've lost the ball.
Play stoppers, wasn't it?
Yeah, we won't. I mean, if Reading's anything to go by, we haven't got any of that. It's a trade-off. If you have runners ahead of the ball and you then give the ball away, you're going to get caught with 4, maybe 5 players forward. Which, but to be honest, I'd rather have that. And the chances we gave away against Reading were all down to defensive mistakes on the halfway line. And if people had done their jobs properly, which you would hope they would more likely do in the league, then maybe that won't be such a problem. I mean, there are things to work on. You can by no means say it's everything's brilliant after a friendly against the League One team, but yeah, I thought that Reading game was very promising, and quite optimistic about everything about Russell Martin and the new training setup so far.
And Steve, what have your impressions been on the new manager so far? I know we talked about the need to move away from the high press because it wasn't working, and this possession-based strategy, which seems to make more sense in a season when you've got to play 46 odd, maybe 50 games with the Cups.
Yeah, I think, and also possession-based strategy seems to make a lot more sense when you're likely to have a lot of the ball. coming down from the Premier League with a squad that I think a lot of us probably still assess as having been good enough to stay up, but just not managed by the right people with the right systems. So yeah, in the Championship, we're gonna be seeing a hell of a lot of the ball. So switching to a style where the players are comfortable in that situation. I mean, look at the number of games we had last season where the supposed lesser sides were happy just to sit back and let us have the ball and see what we could or couldn't do, and the answer was generally the latter. And then they'd break on us and nick the game 1-0. That was kind of how the season panned out, and it was infuriating. And this season, I think, against what are definitely going to be weaker defences, lower quality players, and at the moment we've retained pretty much everybody we'd want to retain so far. I mean, that'll obviously change between now and the end of August, but at the moment we're looking. I'd say we're probably looking the strongest first 11, and I include Leeds and Leicester in that at the moment. So yeah, I mean, I like what Russell Martin said, but as Alfie said, at the end of the day, he's only just got his feet under the desk and he's looking to impress people. Get people on side. So he was happy to have a chat with a load of us that were in the same hotel as the team over in Turkey. And yeah, I mean, he seems relaxed, but obviously knows he's got a job on his hands, and I think it'll be interesting to see how the patience of the home crowd goes, because I think away from home you'll always get a little bit more leeway. But at home, where you're expected to make the running, if things don't kind of start going our way sort of immediately, how quickly the kind of tension builds and the pressure to just get it forward sort of builds, and see how the players react to that. But yeah, I mean, so far so good, really. I mean, as Glen said, the Benfica game, kind of no real benefit in terms of seeing the style. That was a convenient fitness exercise, and by all accounts, Benfica were paying us to be there, so that was quite useful. But yeah, Turkey away would have been fine if the pitch had been dry and flat enough. Damp and flat enough. But where it was so dry and so bobbly, you couldn't trust any pass was going to find its target properly. There were a couple of times in the second half of that game where I think Alcaraz went on some little mazy dribble, looked really good, and then suddenly the ball just decided, nope, this is a nice dry spot. I'm going to stop here, and he tripped over the ball. And yeah, it was just one of those infuriating evenings. I mean, you saw obviously Prowse's penalty where he's stuck his foot next to the ball, next to the penalty spot, and the pitch has just given way underneath him.
And the goalkeeper still went the wrong way, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, it looks hilarious. It goes viral. Everyone has a bit of a laugh, and then everyone moves on. But it's obviously a bit annoying that we've kind of gone to the effort of going all the way out there, obviously for the owner's benefit, and kind of the 90 minutes has kind of been a bit of a waste, really, for the most part. Other than sort of warm weather training, everybody kind of building up stamina in that insane heat. But then you come back and actually our summer has seemingly disappeared. And
no dry pitches here this weekend.
Yeah, you come back into the cold, and actually that pitch at the JC Stadium was perfect for what we're trying to do, because not only was it obviously with the usual sort of pre-match watering, it was obviously drizzling and raining all afternoon, so it allowed us to keep up the slick passing from the first whistle to the last. And yeah, it was pretty impressive. You've got to kind of take into consideration that Reading are crap. And yeah, I mean, we were what, 2-0 up inside 8 minutes?
Yeah.
The sellout effect.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if we'd been playing a competitive game, that game would have been 5-6-0 at half time and game's over. But with it being pre-season, I think there's still a little bit of a lapse in concentration every so often. Obviously, Bednarek made a bit of a mistake for the first goal. I think I don't think Charles has covered himself in particular glory for the second goal, and obviously Bazunu's also let it squirm underneath him. So still a few sort of slight concerns there. I mean, as Glenn said, with the whole getting players caught upfield, that could be a bit of a problem against half decent sides in the Championship. But ultimately, you do tend to get away with a lot more down at this level, and maybe it's one of those little trade-offs. Okay, we might win a few games 4-3, and at the end of the day, if as long as we are winning those games, then people are going to love watching this style of football. It's going to be really entertaining to start with.
Going to have a few more questions about the players that might fit his style, who stays, who we need to move on. Just, I mean, Alfie, patience was the word that seemed to come out quite a bit in the press conference. He was asking for patience from the fans. Is that just covering his back a little bit, or do you think that's just, if it doesn't quite go to plan the first couple of games, he's going to keep reiterating that patience thing? It will come. Just bear with me, because it's been quite a big shift.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he wants to buy himself some time as well. But I think he is right. I mean, you can see, although Reading looked brilliant and it was quick and you had the passes and the movement was in, what he's trying to do is very different. The fullbacks are playing a totally different role. Whereas under Ralph, Ruben, and to an extent Nathan Jones as well, they were very much hugging the touchline, up and down, balls into the box if they could, and it's man-to-man marking sort of thing. Now it's they're taking up central midfield positions, and they're doing completely different things, taking the ball, trying to turn in space. So there's a lot that's different. And although it's the same players, I think, it's going to take a lot of time. I don't think it will be an immediate turnaround, to be honest. I think that it's a really hard start to the season. I know that Sheffield Wednesday are in a bit of a mess, but I think going away to Hillsborough on a Friday night to open the Championship season, they've got a manager now. I think that's a really tough game. And we mentioned they've got Plymouth and a couple of other promoted sides as well. But then you look in September, I think they play a lot of the teams you'd imagine be up there: Leeds, Leicester. Off the top of my head, I can't quite remember a few more, but I'm sure Middlesbrough, Sunderland away as well. So there's actually a lot of tough games. I wouldn't be surprised if after 10 games this season, some of them aren't first, second, third, or fourth. It might be that they're 6th, 7th, 8th, or 9th. So yeah, he'll want time. I think it will take a bit of time. And the other problem is that he doesn't know exactly what his squad's going to be. The first 11 now is probably going to look very, very different to September the 2nd. He's mentioned that a couple of times. Obviously, we don't know if Tino Livramento is still going to be here. Contrary to what Newcastle want to feed their journalists, we understand that isn't done yet. He is still a Southampton player, but he's one that could potentially leave. Obviously, James Ward-Prowse, you don't know if he's going to be here or not. Romeo Lavia is probably not going to be here by then. Carl Peters probably won't be here by then. Mohamed Salas, who's on the way out. Is Coletta Carr good enough? Lianco, he's probably not going to be here. So there's going to be a lot of changes in between now and then. So although all the work is done and you feed this philosophy in, come September, they'll probably have to do it all over again with maybe even 3 or 4 different players. So I think, I think it will take time. But I'm confident at the moment.